Hey, what's up guys? Thank you guys for coming back to the channel. It means a lot to me. Today I'm going to be giving you guys an editing tutorial. We're going to take this raw image and turn it into this one using Lightroom and Photoshop. Let's get into it. Alright, so we're going to start with a raw file already imported into Lightroom. So this is our raw file right here. And then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go down to our lens correction panel and click both remove chromatic aberrations and enable profile corrections. For me, since I was using a Sigma lens with a Metabones adapter, I'll have to manually find my lens. But for most of you guys will probably just be able to check it and it'll be automatic and I'll select your lens for you. Now we're going to go back up to our basic adjustments. Before we actually make any basic adjustments, we're actually going to go into a crop right away. So for landscape images or landscape-oriented images, for Instagram at least, I typically try to use a 4:5 crop if possible. I just think it looks the best for the medium that we're posting it on at least. And I'm going to try my best to sort of center Benson and make sure the horizon is straight. Something like that, I think, is good for now. And then we go back down to our transform panel, and I'm going to shift this over quite a bit to try to make sure that he's parallel with us. Somewhere maybe 6 or 7. Looks good to me, but he looks a little bit too far to the right still, or at least the visual weight makes it seem like that. So I'm going to put him a little bit like this. Now he feels more centered. Alright, now we go back to the top to our basic adjustments panel, and we're going to bring the highlights all the way down to try to retain as much of the highlights as we can. And then we're going to gradually raise the shadows, just a little bit, not too much. If we bring it all the way up to 100, it creates just this very, very flat image, and it will be very, very unnatural. So we're going to keep it around 20 or 30, just bring back a little bit of the details in the shadows, and then holding Alt Option, we're going to drag the white slider to the right, until we start seeing these spots, just a few, and then that's good. That's controlling the brightest part of our photo. And then holding Alt Option again, we're going to drag the black slider to the left this time slowly, until we start seeing some of these specks, which means that our brightest and darkest points are being blown out or have no data. And for me, just right before or right when you start seeing it here and there is a good place to start. Now we're going to bump the clarity just a little bit, just maybe around 10, 12, and we're going to give it a lot more contrast. I don't normally do this, but for this image I know that we will have to, maybe 40, 50 even. And then we're going to drag the white balance to the left, so we're going to cool the image down quite a bit because I know that I really want the teal to play a big part in this image. So something like this for now. And then we go all the way down to our camera calibration, and we're going to drag our hue slider to the left. Now it's going to turn all the blues into a tealish color and all the warmer tones into shades of orange and red. I'm going to drag the hue of the red primary to the left as well and bump the saturation a little bit. I'm just going to keep tweaking it until I like it. Maybe not so much, it's turning a bit pink, but something like this looks good for now. Now that's basically all we're going to do in Lightroom. I'm not going to touch the tone curve, not in Lightroom, and I'm actually going to edit this in Photoshop now. So we're going to just right click, edit in Photoshop. Alright, cool. Now we see there's a little bit of empty pixels near the top and the bottom, so we're going to fix that right now. We're going to go to this tool right here and make sure we have the Magic Wand tool selected, or you can just press W. And then we're going to go up here and just touch that. And now we have these marching ants around the empty pixels, meaning that we selected it. Now we go to Edit up top, go to Fill, and these are the exact settings you want. You want Content Aware, Color Depth Project, Normal Blending Mode at opacity of 100. Press OK, let Photoshop just fix it. Again, for this one, I'm going to have to zoom in quite a bit. Something like that, perfect. Again, same thing, Edit, Fill, Content Aware. To zoom in and out with hotkeys, you hit Command or Control and then the plus or minus keys. Plus to zoom in, minus to zoom out. There's still a little bit, but we can fix that. I'm just going to clone stamp it out real quick. I press the S key to get my clone stamp tool, and then I option click for my clone stamp source. So just quick and dirty. Alright, now we're going to hit Command and J to create a duplicate copy of our background layer. Alternatively, you can also right click it and then hit duplicate layer. Now we're going to go hit W again and get our selection tool, or I said we want the quick selection tool, I'm sorry. So make sure the quick selection tool is selected and not magic wand this time. Make my brush smaller using the bracket keys. And now I'm going to make a very rough selection of my subject, Benson. This does not have to be perfect. I just want a general selection of him. Make sure that he's fully selected, and I want a little bit of the smoke as well for the shot. And if you select it too much, you can go up here and select the minus brush, or you can hold down Alt or Option, and you'll see the plus sign turn into a minus, and now you're brushing away whatever you're painting over, or you're deselecting whatever you're painting over. Just make sure all of Benson's covered. Cool. Now we're going to go to our Channels tab. For me, I have my Photoshop fairly customized with plenty of panels, as you can see, but my Channels tab is open here since I do a lot of things in the channels, making channel selections. For you, you might have it up here in a closed tab, or if you can't find it at all, you might have to go to Window and make sure that Channels is selected. Now in our Channels tab, we're going to go to hit this button, and now it's going to save our selection that we made. I'm just going to rename it real quick as Benson. Cool. Now, working on our bottom layer, so make sure you have the bottom layer selected. We are going to go back to Edit, Fill, and ContentAware Fill again. And by doing this, it's going to help us ease the transition and make it more gradual in some of the bigger changes that we're about to make. So if we unclick the top layer, we see what's going on right here. Perfect. Now, I'm going to hit Command or Control D to deselect. Again, obviously not the greatest selection, but it's okay. Oh, actually, we're going to check this top layer again, and then going back to our selection, our channels, if you hit Alt or Option and you click on it once, or sorry, Command and click on it, Command or Control and click on it, now you'll see the marching ants. If you go back here and you go down here, you can make a mask with a selection that we made. So our selection is just of Benson showing from the top. Everything else is showing from the bottom. Now on the bottom layer, we're going to go to Filter, Blur Gallery, and then Field Blur. The Field Blur tool is used to create graduated transitions between blur, adding blur instead of just adding a global adjustment of blur. You can create gradients. So we have this point here that starts in the middle. We're going to drag it somewhere over here, and then I'm just going to drag the blur amount up to around 30. Now I'm going to have another tack down by his shoe, and we're going to move all the way down to 0. So between this point and this point, the blur goes from 30 to 0. Add another point here, move that up to 30. Point here, back down to 0. You can catch the drift. Another 30. Another 30. Cool. Now we're just going to hit OK. It's a lot of subtle changes, but it's going to make a big difference in the end. Cool. Now that we have this, we are going to go to Filter, Blur, and Motion Blur. Now we're going to have the angle at 0. Okay, sorry. Whoops. I skipped a step. We're actually going to hit Command, Alt, Shift, E to create a new stamp layer. And this will basically just merges everything into a single layer that we can now work on again. Now here, we're going to go to Blur, Motion Blur, and we want the angle at 0. And the distance I found for me, and for this photo specifically, around 650-ish works. You might have to play around with it. You can do vertical blur as well if it fits your photo better. Hit OK. Perfect. Now, from here, we want to just slowly reveal Benson. So we're going to create a blank mask, and then we're going to hit B to go to our brush tool. We want a very low hardness, so I'm using a hardness of 0. And then opacity, I'm going to change to around 15, and a flow of 100. And for me, I don't really use smoothing that much. And we're going to slowly, make sure you're painting with black. If it's not black already, you can just open it, go to the color picker, and choose black. Or you can hit D to go to default black and white colors, and X to switch between foreground and background. Anyways, we're just going to make quick brush strokes, making sure that we very gradually reveal Benson. And a lot of this, there's no real formula for this. It's really just what you're looking for, what you're trying to do. And I'm also, since what's happening right now is we're actually revealing Benson from the layer below. And because of the blur, it's created a very faded effect. I'm actually going to go back down here and add a levels adjustment right above it. And now there's a clipping mask. If you don't have the clipping mask, I'm going to release it real quick. You can just go to your layers or your levels adjustment, right click it, and go to create clipping mask. And you'll see that little arrow pointing down. That means it's clipped to this layer and only affecting this layer. Now we're going to drag the midpoints to the right quite a bit and the highlights to the left, just adding a lot of contrast. And we're still going to have to do the same thing here as well, actually. At this point, we're just fine-tuning. And a lot of this, you just have to eyeball it. It'll be different for your photos as it's going to be different for my photos. Something like this, I don't want the smoke as much, so I'm actually going to go back to a white brush. I'm painting on our layer mask, again. I'm going to start painting that out. Again, with very low opacity, I can add blur into different parts. Something like that. And then a lot of it is just making small adjustments, seeing what works. Going to create a curves adjustment real quick. Release the clipping mask so it's affecting everything. Going to give it a S-curve, something like this. Now it's very punchy, very contrasty. And then we're going to create another curves layer. Release the clipping mask again if it's automatically clipped. And then we're going to just drag this down. And then I'm going to hit Command-I, so it's inverted, so it's not showing anything. And we're going to create another curves layer. Again, we don't want it clipped. And we're going to go up here and bring that up just a tad. And then hit Command-I again. Now going to our brush tool, making sure our opacity is around 25, 30 maybe. Do 25. And using a relatively big brush. So this top one is lightening, this bottom one is darkening. We're going to create our own vignette. Big brush, we're going to paint once across the bottom, once across the top, and once on each side. And what's going to happen is it's just going to subtly draw your eyes toward the middle with the lighting. Again, I'm going to do it one more time, this time with an opacity of 10 on my brush. Then in our curves, or to the top one, sorry, making sure my opacity is low. Now if we just toggle this, now it's very clear where your eyes are supposed to go. They're supposed to go straight to the center. So this is obviously not the original image. The other image I spent a little bit more time editing, and I actually used a couple different plugins to achieve the effect that I wanted. But this was just a quick tutorial to show you guys just kind of how I create the effect, this motion blur effect. The more time you spend with these kinds of edits in these photos, the better they're going to be. So I encourage you guys to take some of the techniques that you guys hopefully have learned today and just play around with them, especially since with each image it's going to be very different. So just play around with it, see what works, see what doesn't work, and good luck. I hope you guys learned something. If there's anything that wasn't clear, please let me know in the description, or just drop me a DM or anything. I love reading your guys' DMs and comments. And yeah, if you guys have any other questions about editing, if there's specific photos you want to see me edit, please let me know, and I look forward to any suggestions. Thank you. See you guys.